They say if you're nervous about public speaking, you should imagine your audience is in their underwear. I might be doing it wrong. Hello, my name is David Wraith, and I'd like to tell you about some people that I've met at work. Let's see. There was a woman in black see-through lingerie who informed me that at age 65, she was still an active sex worker. There was a journalist who was sent to do a story about my work, and she ended up taking off all of her clothes and showing me the scars that she still had from abuse she survived as a child. There was a young man, a very handsome young man, an Ivy League student who pulled down his pants, and where I expected him to have a penis, he had a vulva. I meet a lot of interesting people at work. You're probably wondering what I do. You're probably wondering why I'm standing here in my underwear. Unless you're familiar with my work, in which case you're wondering why I bother to wear underwear at all. I'll answer that last question first. I am wearing underwear right now because I did not think TEDx St. Louis would appreciate me coming out here completely naked. I'll address the other questions, but first I want to ask all of you something. How many of you would be willing to trade places with me right now? If I told you that you could give your very own TEDx talk on this stage, but you had to do it in your underwear, who would take me up on that? Show of hands. Okay. And keep them up if you think you could do it completely naked. Okay. The reason I ask is for the last 13 years, I've been conducting clothing optional events across the United States and Canada. I host clothing optional poetry readings. I host a clothing optional Christmas party that went viral on the internet. And my clothing optional bowling night made national news. Which is why no bowling alley in St. Louis will return my calls. But what I'm best known for are my clothing optional body image workshops that I've conducted all over North America. And at the beginning of each workshop, I ask the participants the same question I asked all of you. Who would be willing to get naked, come on stage, and tell their story? As you can imagine, I don't get a lot of volunteers. And then I take all my clothes off, and we talk about body image for about an hour. And after that, I make the invitation a second time. And do you realize I always get way more volunteers the second time? So many, in fact, that I've had to shorten the initial discussion from an hour to 45 minutes, just to accommodate all the people that want to share. And these people don't just get physically naked. They get emotionally naked. They share some of the most personal, embarrassing, heartbreaking stories from their lives to a room full of strangers. Now, when I first started doing this work, I thought, man, I am really out here on the fringes. This is radical stuff. But the more research I did, the more I realized there was a precedent for what I was doing. I learned about Dr. Wilhelm Reich, a contemporary of Sigmund Freud, who would see his psychotherapy patients in the nude because he felt that it encouraged transparency and honesty. I learned about Dr. Paul Bendrum, who in the 1960s, with the support of the American Psychiatric Association, would host marathon group therapy sessions where he kept his patients naked and awake for 35 hours straight. He thought that the shared experience of nudity and sleep deprivation would bond them faster. And after 13 years of standing naked in front of thousands of people and inviting literally thousands of people to get naked with me, I've come to some of my own conclusions. I believe that hanging out naked with strangers and friends is one of the fastest, most accessible, and least expensive ways that we can increase our self-esteem, our empathy for others, and our general happiness. And I've got more than just 13 years of anecdotal evidence to back me up. I have science! Okay. I was expecting a thunderclap and like a lightning strike when I said that, but apparently not in the budget. More recently, a doctor named Keon West at Goldsmiths University in London conducted a survey that measured people's self-esteem, their overall body positivity, and their general life satisfaction. And he and his team administered this survey to people before and after they participated in a clothing optional event. And what they discovered was all these metrics, self-esteem, body positivity, life satisfaction, increased after the event. And in most cases, it increased dramatically. The shortest event in the study was 90 minutes long. It was the polar bear dip, where a bunch of people run naked into a freezing lake. Not my idea of a good time, but do you? My point is this. Imagine all of the negative messages that you've internalized about your body or about bodies in general. What's too fat? What's too skinny? What's too curvy? What's not curvy enough? What's not fit enough? All these negative messages that can lead to isolation, depression, body dysmorphia, eating disorders. And imagine being able to significantly counteract the effects of those messages in 90 minutes. All with something that is inexpensive, accessible, and relatively easy. All you gotta do is take your clothes off, right? You think I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I'll let you know when I'm kidding. In preparing this talk, I've had to think really hard about why it is that I do what I do. And I realized I do it for that 65-year-old woman because I know how stigmatizing it can be to come out as a sex worker at any age. I do it for that journalist who I'm pretty sure was planning to come and observe and write a very unbiased piece, but she felt moved to participate, even processing some of her own trauma. I do it for that young man because I know that transgender people are still discriminated against, sometimes violently. And yet he felt comfortable to literally drop his pants in a room full of people, many of whom, like myself, didn't know he was transgender. And I do it for myself because this process has taught me that after 13 years of standing on stage in front of thousands of people naked, I am still way more comfortable talking about what I do than why I do it. After all these years, I'm still more comfortable with physical vulnerability than emotional vulnerability. And so the work continues. Whenever I give a speech or conduct a workshop, I like to leave you with a homework assignment. Now, ordinarily I say, your homework assignment is to change the world. Not today. Today, your homework assignment is to reach out to one person. I challenge each and every one of you to reach out to a single person who has never seen you naked. Invite them over. To share a meal, play a board game, put together a puzzle. Let them know in advance that they can take their clothes off or leave their clothes on, but you will be completely naked the entire time. Okay, now, be honest. How many of you think you're gonna complete your homework assignment? Show of hands. Okay. I'm gonna leave you with a quote from Dr. Keon West, who, after all of his research and publishing his findings, he summed up his work like this. He said, and I quote, "Nudism makes us happier." I couldn't have said it better myself. And just to prove to all of you that I practice what I preach. I'm kidding. It's not that kind of show.